This is Rob Morse of the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. I'm reminding you that this podcast is one of the many good ones on the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Welcome to Unload and Show Clear, the podcast about all things IDPA. And now, here's your host, a man for whom getting stuck in traffic was the only thing worse than sticking around for day one of nationals, Lloyd Bailey.
Welcome to another episode of Unload and Show Clear, where we counter the media's negative image of gun culture by introducing you to the amazing men and women who are involved in IDPA, International Defensive Pistol Association. We're focusing on people, not politics. The everyday people from all walks of life, men and women who volunteer their time and effort, who spend their hard-earned dollars on travel, match fees, and gear to make this sport great. They're your doctors. They clean your teeth. They're fixing your houses, taking care of your pets. They fix your computers and pilot your planes, and they protect our streets and our nation. They are gun culture at its finest, and it's misunderstood or completely unknown to the mainstream media. Today, I'm going to introduce you to another one of these awesome people. But first, I want to thank today's sponsor. I'm really excited and honored to be able to say that today's show is brought to you by the Blue Bullets. Why am I so excited? Well, for one, the Blue Bullets make cost-effective, quality bullets specifically designed for competitive shooters. Two, they're big supporters of the shooting sports because they're competitive shooters themselves. And three, because I'm a customer and I believe in their products. Using their own polymer-based liquid coating that they mix in-house, Blue Bullets are designed to prevent barrel leading, to reduce smoke, and yet they're priced comparably to other uncoated lead bullets. And unlike uncoated lead bullets, the Blue Bullets are Glock safe. How did they do that? They did that by spending 6 years developing a coating and a process that ensures consistency and quality. I can tell you from my own experience that while I usually don't perform very well at matches, the Blue Bullets never let me down. Visit thebluebullets.com today. Tell them you heard about it on Unload and Show Clear by using this promo code BBUSC at checkout, and you will save 5% off of your order. The Blue Bullets, family owned and operated by competitors who know what you want in competition bullets. Check them out at thebluebullets.com. Our special guest today is Jake Wedge from Richland, Michigan. Jake, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So tell us a little about yourself. What do you do for a living there in Richland? Richland is, what is it, outside of Kalamazoo, is that right?
Yeah, about 8 miles north of Kalamazoo.
Okay.
I work for the state of Michigan. Worked on and off for the state for the last 13 years, 10 of the 13 years. Right now I'm a fire safety officer for the Department of Human Services. Working at a hospital and mainly make sure the hospital stays up to fire code and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Are you originally from Michigan?
Yep, born and raised in a little town called Belding. About 30 miles northeast of Grand Rapids. So I've been there pretty much my whole life. About 4 or 5 years ago, we moved down to Arizona for a few years and came back to Michigan.
Gotcha. Couldn't stay away from home.
Yeah.
Was the heat of Arizona, did that play some part in coming back?
A little bit maybe. We lived in Phoenix area, and the town I grew up in was 5,000 people maybe, and Phoenix is 5 million people.
Right.
So I'm a small town guy. So we came back to small town.
You were talking earlier before we started recording. You were talking about reloading for hunting season. Was that how you were introduced to guns? Or?
Yeah, mostly small town Michigan boys. But yeah, my dad, we grew up hunting and fishing and stuff like that. I was shooting the old Ruger 10/22s when I was 5 or 6 years old, probably.
Nice. So, how did you go from hunting to competitive shooting? Where did the interest in handguns and competitive shooting come from?
Oh, let's see. about the time I turned 21 was also the time that Michigan became one of those shell issue states, so we could get a concealed pistol license and start carrying.
Gotcha.
So that was kind of in the news, and it kind of made me want to get a handgun. So this was early 2000s, 2001-ish, 2002 maybe, and everything was in the news, so I went out and bought a handgun. My first gun was a little 22 pistol that I used for hunting, rabbit hunting, squirrel hunting, and whatnot.
Right.
And then shortly after that was a Springfield XD. That was the hot gun back then.
Right. Was there any? What was the motivation, I guess, to go out and get the CPL? Was it, for some people they have a story of some event, something that happened to them, or some concern about safety that kind of motivated them, but others it was just 21, time to do it.
That was it. I grew up with guns and hunting and fishing, so I mean I had plenty of shotguns and rifles for hunting around, and of course, being 21 years old, you're like, hey, this is cool, right?
Right.
So of course, I had Guns and Ammo magazine, and Springfield XD was on every page of that thing, and so I went out and bought one in a 40, of course, back then.
Naturally.
Yeah, of course. Before you knew any better. And got on, the web forums back then. There was no social media; it was all forums.
Right.
And that's kind of how I got into it.
How did you get introduced to competitive shooting?
One of those forums, actually. It was XD Talk way back when. I'm not sure what it's called nowadays, if it's even around. Who knows? There was one of the sponsors on that forum put on a match for XDs only down in Illinois, of all places.
XDs only.
And XD only match. There was a website called Pistol Gear, I think it was, that I remember the owner was Scott Barron. He's like, hey, we're putting on a big XD match. I've never shot a competition in my life, and I'm like, hey, this is sounds cool. I saw it on Shooting USA or whatnot every now and then, and so I drove 6-7 hours down to Illinois and shot a match in 102-degree weather and enjoyed it, I guess.
And was that an IDPA match, or was it, what kind of a shooting match was it?
Yeah, I think it was IDPA-ish, if I remember right. This has been quite a while, probably 2004 or 5.
Okay.
So it's been 15 years. I'm 40 now. I can't remember that far back, but
I totally understand.
But yeah, I think it was XD or IDPA-ish, and that was my very first dipping my toe into the water of competitive shooting. I think after that, I shot maybe one more match locally that whole year, and that's kind of how it started. I did maybe 1 or 2 matches a year for a year or two,
right?
And then like 1 match a month for a year or two, and then I kind of got into it, started having fun in it.
So you found a club close to home?
Yep. Yeah, South Kent Sportsman's Club down in just south of Grand Rapids. They put on a great match, 8-9 stages a month, which is unheard of for a local monthly IDPA match. And great club. I shot there once a month and did that for a few years. I got into working for the Department of Corrections. Was a firearms instructor, so I thought I better start taking it a little more serious, like getting good a little more serious. And since I was teaching the new guys how to shoot handguns, I figured I better learn how to do it really good myself.
Still shooting the XD?
No. Yeah, again, I don't even remember when I got rid of that. Well, actually, I do. It's about 2006 or 8. I switched over to the M&P, actually.
Gotcha.
So I still have the original M&P I bought back in 2008. I've been shooting that, and I got, of course, a bunch more now. What happens is, the funny thing is, one of the guys down in Illinois that I met, that I became buddies with at that first little XD thing, happened to live like 8 miles away from my house.
Oh, wow.
So him and I got buddy. Yeah. And we never met each other before, never heard of each other before, and met up down in Illinois and got to be really good friends. And him and I started going to that monthly match. I just remember being harder than I thought it was going to be.
All thanks to the XD.
Yeah.
So how long, when you decided that you wanted to get better and that you needed to be better as an instructor, what did you do to improve? In addition to shooting more often the local matches, did you change practice routine or add a practice routine or pick up dry fire? What kind of things were you doing to try to improve your skills?
Yeah, I took a lot of classes at first. Tons and tons of classes, actually. I spent way more money on classes than I probably could afford back then. Who knows? I don't know. Put them on credit card. I don't know what I was doing. But but no, I took a lot of classes probably from 2006 up through, I'm still taking classes, at least 1 or 2 a year now. So, but I was really heavy in classes. I was taking 4 classes, 5 classes a year back in 06, 07, 08.
Mm-hmm.
And I went from marksman to a whopping sharpshooter in those 4 years.
So you officially joined IDPA in 2008. You're a master now in ESP, SSP, and CCP. Which of those 3 divisions is your favorite, and what are you currently working on?
I don't really have a favorite, really. It's kind of like random. I kind of flip a coin, whatever it lands on, that's the division I shoot that day. That's part of what I like about IDPA is you can be relatively competitive with almost any of the guns in any of the divisions.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. I shot a lot of CCP this year, I guess, just to get more comfortable with my carry gun. Of course, you got 2 of those, so one of them's my competition gun, one of them's my carry gun. But yeah, so I guess I've been shooting a lot of CCP this year. Is what I've been concentrating on this year.
Gotcha. If you couldn't shoot one of those and you had to shoot one of the other divisions for an entire season, which would you choose?
Carry optics, hands down. I just, I haven't brought myself to spend the money on a good dot yet, and that's probably coming in the next year or so. Yeah, I think just learning the dot teaches you so much about the other parts of shooting as well.
Right. So how did all the time spent, the kinds of classes that you were taking, were they all geared towards self-defense, or were they geared towards competition, or a little of both? What were you?
It was pretty much all the self-defense side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Working in for the Department of Corrections, I wanted to learn that side, the tactical side of things.
Right.
I don't think it was until probably 2013 or 14 that I started taking more competition focused classes.
Gotcha.
And now that's pretty much all I do now is the competition focused classes.
Okay. So how long after you said you gradually, the first couple of years, you increased the number of local matches you were going to, you were taking a lot of classes. How long after that initial kind of warm-up period or working up to improving your skills, at what point did you say, I think I'm ready to try one of these sanctioned match things with all the people in the jerseys and at what point did you decide that you were ready, and where did you go, and what was that experience like?
Well, the year after I joined IDPA was 2009. The Michigan State match was at my home club at South Kent.
Oh.
And I think if I remember, I became a safety officer right away, like after my 1 year in the IDPA, I became a safety officer right away, and I worked the match because, hey, I get to shoot the match for free, and I was young, I was poor, right?
Right.
And so I said, okay, I'll work for 3 days in 92-degree Michigan weather, and on a brand new range that was all sand because the berms were just pushed up that year. And so I worked the 2009 state match and shot that, and I was still a marksman. I won marksman.
Nice.
Then yeah. And then the very next year we had the state match again at our club, and I came in 6th place sharpshooter. So
it's a different pool.
Yeah, a little bit. So I think my I was just kind of in the middle of taking the tactical type classes, and my competition skill. It's a whole different ball game between the tactical side of things and the competition side of things, obviously.
Right. Is the standard kind of cliched complaint about sports like IDPA is, oh, it'll get you killed in the streets. How do you how did all the sort of tactical training, the self-defense training that you were doing to become better as a firearms instructor, how did it make you better as an IDPA shooter?
I don't think it did. I think it was the other way around. When I started taking the competition side of things seriously, I became a better all-around shooter. And I'm a firm believer that it's not the IDPA that will get you killed on the streets. It's the stagnant, not training with a timer, not training with a score of the tactical side of things that is hindering the advancement of your own shooting, if that makes sense, right?
Right. I think from my experience, a lot of the sort of self-defense instruction sort of eschews the idea of using a timer and doing those kinds of drills that transfer over to competition. And so you felt like those couple of years of self-defense training held you back a little bit?
It held me back in the competition side of things. Of course, I was learning the tactical side of things, which is, like I said, it's two different ball games.
Yeah.
I'm not. You can't really compare football and baseball. It's just two different ball games. But I'm not saying it held me back as a shooter. It held me back as a gamer.
As a gamer, gotcha.
I've turned the corner from trying to slice the pie, being all tactical Timmy, to let's push these limits as far as we can and shoot these targets as fast as we can and move on. Right. So I'm a gamer side of things now.
Right.
I mean, I still enjoy the tactician side of things, and I'm a concealed carry guy, so I do that kind of stuff obviously all the time. But I really think the competition side of me has made me a better all-around shooter.
Gotcha. So the combination of, now that you're more well-rounded as in both competition and defensive shooting, I get it. Okay. So what, talk about how you got to master. You like I mentioned earlier, you're master in ESP and SSP and CCP.
Yep.
Were those classification bumps? Were those match bumps? How did that progression work? You talked about how you got to sharpshooter. How did you get from sharpshooter to master?
It's kind of a funny story. So back in 09 or 10, we had this is pre-cell phone videos, right? I bought a camcorder, a little tiny camcorder, and started filming myself. A lot of it because it was cool, but I watched the video back to try to improve. I'm a competition. I'm a competitor. I'm a competitor. I like to win, and coming in second place kind of doesn't rubbed me the right way. I like to be in first place, right?
Or
So
sixth.
I started, yeah, or sixth. Yeah, that's a big reason right there.
Gotcha.
Is so in that, I think it probably was about 2010. As a sharpshooter, I was watching back one of my videos that I took at a local match, and I heard somebody say in the background, "Wow, that kid's fast." But I was sixth place. I was not very accurate then, right? So that kind of put the spark on it. That put the spark in me, or the flame on my tail end, and made me want to get better. So I went from sharpshooter to master pretty much 1 year in 2012.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that was on the old classifier.
The 90 round?
I got my, yep.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I know that. I remember that one too. Yeah, that was on the old 90 round classifier. So that summer, I moved to the town where South Kent's at, my home club.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was living just 5 minutes from the club. I was working second shift at the prison. My wife was working first shift. Didn't have kids then. So while she was at work and I had 4 hours in the morning, I went to the range almost every day. And by the end of that summer, I went from sharpshooter and shot the 90 round classifier and made master that year.
Were you practicing the classifier, or was it just, what were you doing during those, what was your practice routine like in those 4 hour sessions?
I did practice classifier a little bit. Mostly, if you remember back then, stage 3 of the classifier was that long 20-yard
right
from that barricade.
Yeah.
And our club our pistol berms are like 35 yards, and I would practice stage 3 from 35 yards rather than 20. Because most of my points, probably 80% of my points down in the classifier, came from stage 3. So when I did practice the classifier, I practiced it at like 30, 35 yards rather than 20. And I really think that's partially what helped me.
Definitely. Wow.
But other than that, other than that, I mean, I've just practiced everyday stuff, transitions and movement, and just trying to get to be a better overall shooter.
So now that you are, now that you're a master, what's the practice routine like for you now? Have you continued that? You said at the time you were able to do that in the mornings. Are you still able to do that kind of practice routine? And if not, how has it changed?
When I lived in Arizona, I was able to practice a lot more. Well, the nice thing about there is I can practice year round versus Michigan when you can only practice 6 months out of the year. And I really think I improved vastly living in Arizona. I moved there. I was able to shoot a match 4 or 5 days a week sometimes. So I'd shoot on a Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday matches.
Wow.
Real decent matches. Yeah, Arizona's awesome for shooting matches. You can literally shoot almost 7 days a week within 40 miles of Phoenix.
Nice.
So that's where I really improved, I think. And the level of competition is so much better down there. And like I said, I don't like to take second place. So I started getting beat in Arizona a lot. So I started practicing a lot. Took some classes from some pretty high level shooters down there and learned how to practice correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Not just practicing the classifier at 35 yards, but
right.
how to really practice correctly. And I went from probably a low level master to a what I think is a halfway decent shooter in just those few years living in Arizona.
What is, you talked about there about learning how to practice, and I think that's something that less experienced shooters, that's a hard thing to learn. You go out and you practice the things that you're good at. You get that dopamine hit, right? You feel good about yourself, and then you go to a match and it all falls apart. What's the key to learning how to practice properly as opposed to just going out and dumping rounds downrange?
I think being truthful with your practice. When you shoot a down 1 or a down 3 in practice, why did you shoot that down 1 or down 3? And fix those things. And also the low hanging fruit. Obviously IDPA is an accuracy based sport, but it's still time based as well. And those low hanging fruit really are learn how to target transition fast and transition from point A to point B fast with your feet. That's those two things. What do we shoot? 18 rounds in a stage at the most. And so you have 25 splits. So you're at 4.5 seconds of shooting, 5-6 seconds of shooting, versus a stage like that's 28 seconds long, and you're only shooting for 4 seconds of it. It's that other 24 seconds that you can really learn to slim down, and that's where you're going to save time in the sports.
Right. Got any stories or fun or funny or exciting experiences from sanctioned matches since that Michigan State match that you finished 6th place in SSB?
Yeah, probably 2015 was the first year I won. I was division champ at a sanctioned match.
Nice.
It was the year after I moved down to Arizona, and I won the South Mountain Showdown there. And I've never even come close to winning a sanctioned match in my life, and I shot an okay match. The weather it was in January, and January weather in Phoenix can be a little iffy, and the weather was a little goofy that year. It actually rained, if I remember right. And I didn't think I shot that great of a match. The scores got posted, and there was a DC by my name. I'm like, what's DC mean? And realized, oh my Lord, it's division champ. That's still a high in my memory bank. The first time you win a sanctioned match.
You were surprised by the result. How did it feel to you going through that match? I've never even gotten close to winning anything like that. So what does it, looking back on it, did it feel different? Did it feel like you were just on it that day and everything was working? Or did it just seem like another match?
No, since then I've been lucky enough to win at least a handful of matches. And the matches that I win versus the matches that I lose, the matches that I win almost feel like it's just slow rolling. You're just smooth running along, no big hiccups or bumps. And if there is a small bump in the road, you can just keep moving past it. And the matches that I've not won are the ones that I feel like I'm rushed or feel like, I need to push or something. And no, really, it just felt like another day at the club, and everything went okay. Nothing stellar, but everything went okay. And at the end of the day, I won just by a couple seconds, I'm sure. But yeah, it just felt like another day at the club.
In the time from going to the XD match to becoming a master and winning division championships, what do you think is something that you've learned in that time that you used to do when you first started that you learned I can't do that anymore, and you've changed how you do that thing, whatever it might be?
I quit going to the practice just to feel good, just to turn dollars into noise, right? So that's probably the biggest thing. I love to practice and I hate to practice. It almost starts, sometimes it starts to feel like a job. But I don't just practice to make noise and put holes in paper and feel good about it. Now I have a routine when I go to practice. I'm working on these skills, and I'm going to do these drills, and I try to track them. I keep all my important notes in my note section on my phone, so I know what I need to be working on. Stuff like that. That's the main thing.
So
and
practice
really
with a purpose.
Yes, practice with a purpose. And be honest with your practice. I think I said that a few minutes ago. Is if you have a bad day, realize why you had a bad day and fix that. Or if you have a bad drill, fix it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's at this point, what part of your game is your strong suit? You know, what do you feel the most comfortable doing, and what are you still working to improve?
Well, continuously improving accuracy. I mean, that's something that you can never, unless you're shooting 0 down every at a match every month. That's something that you always got to work on. I like my foot movement this year. My moving from point A to point B to point C.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously, I'm still working on all that too. But this year I haven't been able to shoot as much this year as I have in the past, coming back to Michigan from Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And I've really seen my accuracy decline this year, just because I haven't put the rounds down range like I have been
Gotcha.
the last few years. So yeah, this year, this winter, and probably going on in the next year, I'm really gonna be working on accuracy.
All right. So what is it about IDPA that you love so much? You've been doing this for, like we said, for 11 years now. You've progressed from the XD match in 2006 or whatever it was to a masterclass shooter, constantly working to get better and improve. What is it about IDPA that's fun, that you love? What is it that keeps you coming back and trying so hard beyond your own personal desire to improve? You talked about your competitive nature, but there are other sports that you could be competitive in, other shooting sports you could be competitive in. What is it about IDPA that has you enamored with it, that you keep on working at getting better?
Yeah, I shoot both sports. I shoot on the dark side too a little bit, but no, IDPA, I really like the people. I like that I could pick up any gun in any division and be competitive and have a chance to win high overall at the match. I like that I can compete and be competitive with a gun that's very similar to my carry gun.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. But especially the people. I really like people. I've made so many friends in these shooting sports that it's kind of my, we go and hang out type thing.
Well, Jake, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I appreciate you coming and representing Michigan and giving me a chance to get to know you a little bit. I hope I get a chance to see you on the range at some point. And again, thanks for coming in and doing this.
Awesome. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank our guest for coming on the show and our sponsors for making all of this possible. Take a moment, if you would, to check out the website, check out our show notes at unloadpodcast.com. We've got lots of interviews with more amazing guests like the one you heard today. Join our Facebook group at unloadpodcast.com/Facebook for all the latest updates and to connect with other fans of the show. And if you'd like to support the show, we sure would appreciate it. Consider becoming a patron at unloadpodcast.com/extra. I've got some full-length interviews and special content available there exclusively for patrons as well. And if you know somebody or you yourself would make an interesting guest for a future episode of Unload and Show Clear, please contact me at lloyd@unloadpodcast.com or click on the contact page on the website and send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Tune in again next time for another episode of Unload and Show Clear.